So we ended up seeing the market print new all-time highs, which is exactly in sync with what I shared for those that are insiders at Push and Profit Research, that the market was likely to continue pushing up. But in this video, I want to go ahead and share a couple of things that we should absolutely be mindful of and cautious of. So make sure to watch this video in its entirety because we're going to go ahead and cover a couple things. Now, first off, I want to talk about how healthy the market is, right? So we're seeing the market hit new all-time highs, as I mentioned. But in addition to that, when we take a look at RSP, which is the S&P 500 equally weighted, which means that it has all the companies in the S&P 500, but they have an equal weighting, meaning all the 500 companies plus, they're equally weighted. And when we see this hitting new all-time highs, that's a very healthy sign of the market for a continuation going upwards, simply because it means that it's not just the big tech-heavy names like Apple, Nvidia, Tesla, Microsoft that are holding the market up. It's actually the overall market that's pushing up. And so oftentimes for those that are insiders at Push and Profit Research, I share how RSP is a good proxy for market breadth. And you want to look at it to tell you how healthy the market is. And right now, the market is looking pretty healthy, right? It's looking like it's running a marathon right now. In fact, I also want to point out to another market eternal, which is leadership. So right over here, we have the new highs versus the new lows. And we see that last week, we printed 108 new highs in comparison to just 20 new lows. The previous close 146. And then today, right, we ended up seeing 123 new highs with relatively small new lows. And so this market eternal, this is called leadership. And not only is market breadth looking good, but leadership is looking pretty strong as well. And so that's a really good sign that the market is looking healthy. Now, one of the reasons I mentioned for those that are insiders at Push and Profit Research that the market is likely to continue pushing up is because on a fundamental level, we're seeing earnings look pretty strong. And we know that earnings often dictates the price action for stocks in the long term. And we're currently in Q3, but we're receiving the earnings for Q2. And so far, 34% of the S&P 500 companies have reported, and 80% of those that have reported positive earnings per share, and 80% of them have reported a positive revenue surprise. So far in this earnings season, we're getting a lot of companies, showing great numbers, and that's good. That could sustain the market pushing upwards. However, now here's where the big but comes in, because next week is an interesting week. Why is that? Well, over here, we have a plethora of companies reporting earnings. I mean, just look at this. This is a huge mega week. We have a lot of mega cap names. Look at, Meta, Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, right? In addition to all these other names, Roku, MasterCard. You guys see all the names, Starbucks, PayPal, Visa, etc. So a lot of companies are reporting earnings. This is a huge week. And that means that we may end up seeing volatility because this is the week where we're going to see a big bulk of companies reporting. And if it comes down to the point where we start to see the percentage of positive earnings kind of dwindle, well, that could be a big shock to the market. But it gets even more interesting because not only is it a big week for earnings, but guess what? As far as macroeconomic data, it's a huge week, all right? Look, Monday, there's nothing, right? Monday's a very peaceful day. But guess what? Tuesday, we got job openings, consumer confidence, right? Look at all this. We have GDP numbers. Guess what? FOMC interest rate decisions take place next Wednesday, July 30th. We also have PCE, which is the Fed's preferred inflationary gauge. So we're going to get a view on inflation. We also have, just look at this. Consumer sentiment, construction spending. We have a lot of economic data. So you combine the data that we're going to get on an economic standpoint in addition to the earnings, it's going to be a very crazy week. Now, fingers crossed that everything looks well, but we may see some mixed signals that could swing the market downward. So that's why I want everyone to be cautious. And if you're up in your positions, be smart. Have a trailing stop loss. This way, if things end up falling down, right? If the market ends up falling down, well, guess what? You lock in your profits, and if the market continues falling down, you buy back in when you see confirmation or an opportunity to buy. Now, again, you should always trade and invest in whatever you see value in, and just ignore what I'm saying or what anyone else is saying online or even on any platform, right? You are responsible to do your own due diligence. I'm just sharing, some of the things I'm seeing and some of the things that I think we should be cautious of. Now, as far as the, interest rate decision, the future markets are pricing in a 2.6% chance that we're going to even see rates get cut. So very unlikely that we're going to see rates cut. In fact, it's very likely that we're just going to see a pause, and that's exactly what I thought before as well, and so that's what the markets are pricing in. However, if we were to see a cut, very unlikely, that would be extremely bullish. But is it going to happen? I don't think so. The market doesn't think so. However, September is where I've been telling those that are insiders at Push and Profit Research, that's where we're likely to get a cut. And in fact, the future markets are pricing in currently a 62.4% chance that that's where we get a cut. Now, it's going to be very interesting because September historically tends to be a very bearish month, but we're also likely to see a cut. So very interesting. We'll continue to monitor the economic data that comes out and all the fundamental data that comes out. However, right now, very optimistic time. I'm sure everyone is smiling at their portfolio. Everyone's just having a big grin from the one side of their face to the other, because who doesn't like it when the market's going up, especially with what we experienced this year. I mean, oh my goodness, it's just a couple of months ago, you guys know, everyone was panicking, right? It's been a crazy year thus far. However, I just want you guys to be mentally prepared that next week might bring some of the craziness back. Now, just a quick anecdotal story, right? I've been telling those that are insiders at Push and Profit Research that, look, the market's going to be very bullish, and I've been supplying it with data and facts. However, I do have to admit that I am a bit of a superstitious person, right? And again, I don't trade based off superstition. I think that's imbecilic. It's silly to trade off, superstition. But last night, I was in my car in the driveway, just on the phone, and I saw a big black bear just a few inches from my car. He just passed by, and then he ends up going on his 2 feet, standing up, and he puts one arm on, the trash bin on the side of the house. He sniffs it, and then he walks away. And to me, I don't know, the superstitious version of me was just like, look, me seeing a big black bear this up close, I've never seen a big black bear that close up, right? I was like, the market's going to have a big black candle, and it's going to be bearish, right? Because I just saw a bear, right? That was just a superstitious voice in me. However, that was not the case. We did not see a black candle. We did not see a bearish candle. Saw a very bullish, hollow, white candle. So that just goes to show you, not everything is a sign, right? Sometimes you'll see signs in life. Don't trade off of superstition or any signs. Trade off the data, trade off the facts. Just wanted to share that funny story because I've never seen a bear that close just pass by me. But again, I am superstitious. I don't trade off that, but I am. I mean, a few weeks ago, I saw 3 black crows. And if you don't know, let me go ahead and show you this, actually. 3 black crows is also a very bearish candlestick pattern. This is how it looks like. And a few weeks ago, I literally saw 3 black crows just on the roof of my house. And at that moment, I was like, oh my goodness, this is a sign. The market's going to start falling down. We're going to see black crow candlestick patterns. That did not happen, right? Again, this is just anecdotal. I don't trade off the superstition, but not everything's a sign. So just wanted to share that funny story. Now, real quick, something that's off topic but kind of interesting is that we ended up seeing or hearing today that Trump suggests that the government can issue rebate checks to Americans from the tariff revenue collected this year. So think about it as potential stimulus checks. Interesting, right? We may end up having that. Now, I'm a bit skeptical about that, and it's not because I don't want you to get a check, right? I want everyone to get a check. I want everyone to have a ton of success, enter into a year of prosperity, and I wish you the best. If you're watching this video, I want the best for you. However, I don't think this is likely to happen, and if it does happen, I wouldn't be a big fan of that. Again, it's not because I don't want you to get a check. It's just because I think we should worry more about the deficit. versus giving people stimulus. But the opposite, the kind of other side of the spectrum is like, hey, look, if we give people stimulus checks again, they're going to go ahead and spend. That's going to bleed into corporate earnings, and that's going to be very well for the economy. So you could look at it from two different sides of the coin. I just say, hey, listen, if we're going to be collecting revenue from these tariffs, I think we should focus on the deficit, because it's just getting kicked down the can. But I don't want to go ahead and delve into the realm of politics. That's for someone else to talk about, right? But by the way, if you are on X, right, this is something I saw on X. Make sure to give me a follow on X. I'm trying to be very more active on X and share my thoughts. For example, shout out to Mike. Mike just wrote to me this morning. Good morning, Justin. I hope this week has treated you kindly so far. Wishing you nothing but happiness and success for today and this weekend. Which, shout out to Mike. Responded to Mike. And if you guys give me a follow and you write to me, I'm going to do my best to write to you back. I'm just trying to be more active on X. X is where everything is at, right? In fact, something else I saw pretty interesting, right? This was from the account Unusual Whales. It said ICE plans to expand its use of electronic surveillance of immigrants from about 24,000 people currently fitted with GPS ankle monitors to about 183,000 people, right? Now, I responded saying Geo stock popped up today, right? So this is pretty interesting because Geo is a company that goes ahead. They manufacture ankle monitoring stock. I'm sorry, it's a stock that manufactures ankle monitors. And let me take this off here. Why is this highlighted? Why is this highlighted? Give me one moment. I don't know why my Webull platform is acting very silly. Alrighty, thanks for being patient. I don't know what was going on with Webull here, the Webull platform. But what I wanted to highlight is that Geostock, this is a company that manufactures ankle monitors. And look at what they did today, right? So before the news even came out that, ICE was going to go ahead and, do more surveillance, look at this. This thing popped up nearly 9% today, which is very interesting because that just tells me that there's always someone in the know, right? Someone knew that this was going to happen and they bought in, and the stock just popped up, right? Now, this was a stock that actually popped up once Trump won the election, just off the anticipation that, look, we're going to have a lot of people in prison. We're going to have a lot of ankle monitors being, created, right? So just interesting, right? But again, the main point I wanted to highlight is X is where the conversation is often at. And so make sure to, give me a follow on X, right? And if you haven't done so already, if you're new to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button. If you liked any of the, information in this video, if you found any value. And with that said, I'll see you guys on the next video. Take care, guys.